Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. Tensions around the Strait of Hormuz are revealing cracks in Gulf unity and a shifting balance between regional and global powers. The UAE's exit from OPEC and Iran's selective control over shipping point to more fragmentation and unpredictability. Joining us today on TVP World to examine these shifts is Silvia Boltuc, Managing Director of Special Eurasia, Specialist in Geopolitical Risk and Eurasian Affairs. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good evening.
So taking a look at the situation where UAE is potentially leaving OPEC, previously known sort of as the cartel in the Middle East when it comes to oil, in practical terms, how is that going to affect, be it oil prices or the geopolitical situation going forward?
Yes, first of all, as we already saw, there was already a reaction in the energy market as the prices of crude oil dropped by 3%. And if they float the market with their oil, of course, we will witness a lower in the energy prices, which might affect countries such as Iran or Russia, because they don't have the production capabilities of the United Arab Emirates, Russia because his infrastructure are hit by Ukraine, of course, in the middle of the war, and Iran because of sanctions and the damage he experienced after the war. This is the main consequences, but this will also change the balance inside the Gulf Cooperation Council and also, of course, the regional infrastructure and balance among also Gulf monarchies relations.
Right. Of course, this is going to have some widespread impact, not just on oil prices, but also the political situation in it as well. Do you think that the recent development is more of a temporary disruption, or are we potentially seeing any sort of long-term weakening of OPEC's influence?
I think there will be a weakening. I know that for sure that the United Arab Emirates were frustrated by the production quotas imposed by the cartel, but there is behind all these dynamics, there is also a geopolitical reason because they are moving in this direction. And specifically, I'm referring to the fact that they have friction with Saudi Arabia because of competition in the region, for example, in scenarios such as Yemen, and because of policy regarding oil prices, and because the United Arab Emirates are increasingly allying with Israel and the United States. Indeed, we saw that recently a new corridor was proposed by India and Israel, which will connect New Delhi with the Haifa port of Israel, and the United Arab Emirates are a major anchor node of this corridor. So I think that there is an attempt to change the balance. They want to be more flexible when it comes to their policy regarding export and also the quotas, of course, of the energy export. But they are also changing the balance of the powers inside the Gulf, and this will have major repercussion not only for foreign powers but also for neighboring countries such as Saudi Arabia or Qatar.
Right, and speaking of major repercussions, of course, can't neglect the situation around the Strait of Hormuz. Recently, U.S. State Secretary Rubio says that, well, it's comparing the blockage of Strait of Hormuz to what he calls economic nuclear weapon. Is this a hyperbolic statement, or is it going to have that wide of an effect? And do you think it is realistic to see a real, full closure of the strait?
I don't think this is fully realistic. I mean, they have the leverage to do it. I don't think that both countries involved, Iran and United States, will force a blockade for months, or at least I hope so. We see that right now there is a blockade imposed by the United States, but Iran was already able to circumvent the blockade. We have some reports that according to which more than 30 Iranian tankers have bypass this blockade thanks to a legal mechanism. Basically the ship went through a route which remained inside of territorial waters of Iran, never entering the international waters where the blockade is imposed. Also with the agreement with Pakistan, because they crossed not only Iranian territorial waters but also Pakistani one. And we also saw that Iran has managed to reach an agreement with a Japanese companies, and a ship from this Japanese company went through the strait. So therefore, I think that the blockade is not 100% functioning. Still is obviously a huge problem for the energy market and for the balance, the stability of the region.
Right, and going to that energy market, I would like to go back on some of the points that you touched on earlier, how the lowering of energy prices with the exit of UAE from OPEC would have influence on countries like Russia and Iran. Specifically, can you help us understand how does Russia fit into this broader picture? And with the current tension, be it the Strait of Hormuz, be it the situation with OPEC, where do you think Russia lands?
Well, when it comes to energy prices, of course, the OPEC quotas, they were meant to maintain the prices of oil revenues quite high. If the United Arab Emirates, they are the third producer among the OPEC countries, member states, and therefore, if they produce at their maximum, they are really able to change the market in this regard. So by lowering the prices, of course, both Iran and Russia will lose some of the precious revenue that they need for example, for Russia to fund its war in Ukraine, and for Iran to fund its resistance currently. So this is one major point. For Russia, of course, the Gulf was in the aftermath of the war with Ukraine, Russia was pivoting towards East Asia. It was integrating Gulf monarchies in its network of trade and corridors of Eurasia, and it was also integrating Iran. There were some major corridors like the North-South transport corridor, and Iran was one of the key strategic assets inside this connection, and therefore, of course, instability doesn't serve Russia very well. Although we have to say that recently, due to the blockade in the Gulf, Russia was able to export again energy towards Europe, which was an outcome of this situation. But if the United Arab Emirates will flood the energy market with their oil, of course, this will no longer be maybe the reality, as they will have also cheap energy to sell to Europe as an alternative to Russia.
Right, and last but not least, do you think that the introduction of increased production from the UAE would actually offset some of the stress given the blockage of Strait of Hormuz, perhaps give the United States a little bit more leverage when it comes to dealing with Iran?
Yes, I think so. Particularly, can you imagine if really not India but also the United Arab Emirates connects to the port of Israel in Haifa, in the city of Haifa? They will be in the Mediterranean Sea, so have a direct link also with Europe, and therefore, of course, we will not be reliant anymore to the corridors, to the pipelines which go through the strait and also through Turkey, for example. Or the middle corridor coming from Central Asia, which might also experience some disruption. This will be, of course, provoke some major change in the geopolitics of the region.
All right, thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
It was my pleasure. Bye.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.